Welcome, Jamie, to Amp It Up. I am so freaking pumped that you are on this podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for asking me to be on.
Well, I always say to a lot of my clients and a lot of just my followers, the power in just taking those risks, because you don't know whether big or small, you don't know what's going to happen. And I think you probably have stories that you can share about doing something that feels maybe a little scary, but if you don't, what do they say? You don't get any of the shots that you don't, well, no, I'm saying it wrong.
You don't make any of the shots you don't take.
You don't make any shots that you don't take. You see, I have to leave it to the writer because I don't know how to verbalize and communicate, but in my head, it makes a lot of sense. Jamie, yes, I listened to you on, well, you've been on so many podcasts. I feel like now you are the podcast guest of the century. You may win an award.
I hope so.
It's so incredible. You don't have a podcast yourself, do you?
No, I'm just a traveling guest.
It's kind of amazing, actually, because it's like you get the pleasure of sharing your story and your message, but with so many new audiences, you don't have to do any of the work on your own. But I guarantee you at some point, you're probably going to have a podcast. I feel like that's next.
I mean, if somebody comes to me and says, we'll produce it for you and you just show up, I will do it. But I used to actually, I had a podcast with my friend back in 2018 and I hated all the work, like, because I'm down to do work. But when I know that I hate all the work required, it's when I'm like, this is not for me.
Which part of the work, like, did you hate? You didn't hate the talking part, right?
I liked the talking part, but like the idea of listening to it over and like trying to find quotes or something, I was like, I'll never put this out if I have to listen to it. Like I've never, ever listened to an episode of a podcast that I've been on ever.
Wow. Is it that you don't like the sound of your own voice or you feel like I said it? Why do I have to listen to it?
No, I don't mind the sound of my own voice. I just would be so super critical of the things that I'd say that I'm just like, it's not for me.
Oh
It's
my
not
gosh.
for me.
Now, let me ask you a question, and we're going to get into your book and everything because you have such an incredible journey. And the book, I've read a portion of it. I was joking with you that my damn kids, it's not even a joke. They're 9 and 6. They take my energy. So I didn't finish it because I only started it last week and I'm not a voracious reader as much as I am a listener. I love audibles, but with, with you saying that just now, that you are critical over what you say and it's hard for you to go back. How are you when it comes to your written word or your, video that you create ever? Are you critical?
No, my writing, I read it back. I'm like, damn. Who is this? Who is she? It's amazing. And I don't know if I'd be super critical with myself on a podcast. It's just, I feel like I that's probably the wrong word. I'm never going to be too hard on myself. It's just, I don't like to, if I'm going to listen to something, like I have my time that I want free time, I'd rather listen to something new than something I've already said, which is probably more accurate to what I'd be feeling, which is like an hour of me. I already did it. I was already there.
Yeah. And like we do have such limited time of the day. And I don't know about you, but I'm this is going to sound really bad, like a content whore. Like I always just want stuff in my ears to watch. I never just take a quiet shower. I don't know if you're like this. I never drive in silence. Like very rarely. It's always, I need to either be listening to a podcast, a book, or even just like a song. But most of the time it's some sort of, it's like information, or even if it's just fun or entertainment. What about you? Are you that way too?
Oh yeah. I mean, I listen to music all day, every day.
Okay. Who's your favorite?
Oh, I mean, I can't even tell.
Today, in this moment, first thing that comes to your
Maren
head.
Morris.
Ooh,
her new album is beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I know a little bit about her. I don't know a lot. So she's your fave of the moment.
Yeah. She just came out with a new album. And fun fact about Maren Morris is about a year ago, she posted one of my writings to her feed, like her Instagram feed. Oh my God. It was the most full circle moment because I have written so many things to her music. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I feel like I'm like, I'm in the vortex.
Did she know that you were a fan?
No.
It just happened to be that she found a post of yours and posted it on her feed.
Yeah.
That's so crazy when stuff like that happens and you're pinching yourself. You're like, how did this happen? So that kind of brings me back to how I found you. Of course, I heard you on a podcast, which was how I first discovered you. And then I binged. I went crazy, right? Like I went deep, deep into your content. And if you guys follow Jamie on Instagram, and she's on TikTok and other places as well, but where I really get a lot of value out of her posts is on Instagram. You have a lot of written posts, very, very small writing, right? Very, a lot of words on one little tiny square graphic, which is what so many people say, don't do that for your Instagram feed. It's not good. It won't be shared. It won't. I can highly imagine that that's not the case. I imagine every single one of your posts gets shared, saved a gazillion times because there's such beautiful pieces of just, it's like a paragraph of just amazingness always. And for whatever reason, when you post something, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, I'm like, how did you know that I was feeling that exactly in this moment? Like, why are you in my head?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? Tell us.
Well, that's my intention. So the way that I post, I'm very, the way that I approach Instagram and social media is very holistic. I get my energy around it first, more so than this many times a week, this kind of post, this kind of look, whatever. Having long writing was very intentional in that I'm a writer. I'm using Instagram to get my words out there. Instagram is not using me. So I have to make sure that I'm not being too pithy or too like, oh, it's just a one sentence thing that doesn't really it's just generic. Like I needed depth, especially because I knew at some point, even before I had a book deal, at some point a book is coming out and people need to be invested in my writing, not like to sell books. I mean, people need to be invested in my writing, not some like short little thing like that gets shared 100,000 times, but nobody even cares who the author is. Like, I feel like people care what I have to say because I've cultivated that. And so it's been very important for me to also really relinquish the metrics. So coming back to what you say of like, how does she know? Because what I do is I get a feeling. I have this sense of either I have to write something or I repost something and I just release it and I say, whoever needs this, it's going to find them. Wow. Screw the algorithms. I don't care about any of it. Like, I'm not going to do it the way that people tell me I should. I'm not going to let these platforms dictate my art. I'm going to do my art and the platforms can just, get around it.
Yeah.
And it's been very interesting because people tell me all the time, like even something they'll say, every time I share one of your posts to my stories, I get so many messages and I can't believe it because I can't believe people will read all of this. And I'm like, because, when you have a certain intention and when you're really putting something out that I think it's, I don't follow a bunch of writers. I don't take a class on how to be a writer on Instagram. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But it's just very important for me to maintain my artistic expression and the way that I want to do it, because there was a time when I tried to do that more shareable stuff, make it into more of like a meme, do slideshows, like, make sure that you're not like, people don't have the attention. And I'm thinking, if they don't have the attention to read for 30 seconds, they're not going to read my book. So like, who do I need? I'm not just looking for numbers. I'm looking for real people who are going to be invested in my work. And that's when, I was very quality over quantity. I mean, before my Instagram took off, and it has taken off in the last year, I was like, I got these 30,000 people. I'm just going to like speak to them. And I started picturing, it's like, that's like a pretty full room. I mean, 30,000 people in an arena. That's a lot of people.
Excuse me. I have panic attacks thinking about speaking in front of 30,000. So there you go.
Right. So I was like, this is who I'm speaking to. I'm going to cultivate a community. I'm going to make sure that what I post, like, even if, I don't want to do the thing to myself where, some of my posts, truthfully, they do get like 10,000 likes. Some of them get like 1,700. But I can't say to myself, oh, the one that got 1,700 has less value. It's like those people that saw it, that's what they needed. And then this one just got more people needed it, or more people resonated with it. And that's fine. I'm not going to attach value to it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So what you're saying is so important. And, you know, a lot of what I talk about online is that power of personal branding, right? So when you think about personal branding in general, a lot of people think that the aesthetic and how to fit into a box. But my approach is really, who are you? What do you want to be? Who do you want to be online? And just how do we create that? Like, how do we be, instead of trying to become someone that you think you need to be, like I am a writer on Instagram. No, you're Jamie, and Instagram is just going to be your platform that you're going to be Jamie on. And so it should be very different from anyone else. And I'm sure there's multiple people that have seen your approach and have said, like, I'm going to try something similar. But what I love so much about it is you almost took this. Now, you said this is before you even had the book published. So how long ago did you decide to take this Instagram approach? And then I kind of want to like reverse engineer and see your story, because I think that's become like more of a buzz thing now, this idea of like, be authentic and do your own thing. But it sounds to me like you were doing it a little bit before even.
Yeah. I mean, let's see. I think I have posts on Instagram since like 2014,
Wow.
2013, like just
in this kind of capacity, like just writing.
White background, black text.
Smart.
Just get the words out there. I think it started because I just don't like pictures. Ooh. Like I didn't like pictures of myself at that time, actually. And I was like, well, I don't want to build a brand on myself because I don't want to be that visible, which was funny because now I like being visible, but this has been a journey since that time. And I just always had this feeling of, you know I'm an observer. As a writer, I'm an observer. So I thought it was very interesting that some people who really had this writing ability, they started like kind of fixating on them being visible instead of their art. And I was like, that's not vibing with me. Like, you become bigger than your art. And I don't know that people connect as much. And I think if you try to have these platforms sort of rule you, it's really hard for people to engage in your work. And I was just always like, I want to put the focus on my writing. There was a little bit of a rebellion too, where I was like, I don't want to, I guess it was like at that time, a lot of it's even hard. It's so funny because this was so present at that time. And it's hard for me to even access that insecurity and like how I was feeling. But it was sort of a response to, I felt like Instagram was starting to become that sort of like popularity contest.
This is like 2014, 15, you said?
Yeah, like 15, 16.
Yeah, it was when it was the beautiful aesthetic feeds, right? That was when those started. When the girls looked just gorgeous, perfect with their clothes. And
it was the perfection, no one wanted authenticity. And I was like, I can't give perfection. It's so exhausting. And I also was just like, I don't want to sell how I look when what I want to do is just be my words.
Yeah, on a photo platform, right? Like this is not Twitter. This is not a blog or a Substack. This is literally, and at the time there wasn't even stories, right? No. So it was just one photo. There wasn't video content. There wasn't even carousel content at that time.
No, it was very bare bones. And it was like, and I very much felt like I can't go back to high school with this, where I don't feel good enough and I'm always comparing. And so it really started as a response to insecurity, was to make sure that like my words were the forefront, because it's like I felt confidence in my words, but I didn't want to be visible as myself. And then that started to change too. I started to become more visible, and now I'm like, out there and doing all the things. But because of that, I started to recognize, I was like, I have built this community of people that actually care what I think. And that's what I always wanted. Like, I didn't want someone, to like, oh, wow, she has really pretty pictures. That's it. And for me, like if someone's really into fashion, I get that, you're into editorial, you're a photographer. But for me, I was like, why do I have to go almost sort of Trojan horse people into liking my work? Like, why do I have to do that? So I was like, I'll just put my work out there. And it didn't always get traction. I mean, I've always had I've built up an audience since like 2008. I've been public for a while, but it wasn't going many places. And I was like, all right. I mean, I got for a book deal that was for a book proposal, it was very similar to the book I have coming out now. Got tons of rejections in 2019. Publishers saying her platform's not big enough. Yeah.
And this was in 2019. And you had, do you know, like approximately how many followers you had on Instagram?
About 20,000.
And that wasn't big enough at the time.
No, they were like, the kind of golden standard was 100,000.
And isn't that so funny how fast that kind of changes now? Like that's not as much. I mean, it's important. Don't you agree? It is important as an author to sell books. You do have to have some sort of a platform, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's less, it's just reminds me of like the influencers, right? Like now people are going to user generated content or like very small micro influencers. That means more. So it's more about the connection that you have with the audience rather than just the numbers, the metrics.
Well, this has been very interesting because my publisher, they told me, they were like, if we had given you it like a forecast of what we thought you could sell with pre-orders based on your followers, we would have been so wrong.
Wow. Like, so it blew it away.
Beyond. Okay. Like I have chills because it's just like, they were like, we could have never predicted this.
I'll tell you why. And I don't know why, but I'll tell you why I think. I mean, I am a new follower, right? Like it's only been a few months, I think 3 months or something since I heard you on a podcast, but I so quickly felt like I got to know you. And I think that you have that ability. I think if people are following you, regularly, not only with your words feeling seen, like this is all we want, right? As an audience or as purveyors on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, how do you make good content? It's by being relatable, right? It's having that connection piece with your audience. You want your audience to see themselves in you and from an authentic place, from a real place, not from like, I was just like you. No, it's just, I have the same thoughts as you, even though I have a book coming out, even though I am, on all these platforms, have 30,000 followers, I still experience this. And so that, Sally in Minnesota is reading that and saying like, I feel so connected. She's one of me. I need that book. That's how I felt immediately when I started following you. It was like, I feel like she's like, I just want more. I want her to tell me more because I feel like she's going to give me a guiding path. What happened was when I heard your podcast with, shout out to Liz Moody, right? That's the podcast I heard you on.
Okay.
And I'm not even, what's so crazy about this? I have no idea how I listened to that podcast because that was my first podcast of ever listening to Liz's. So something happened, either a reel or some post showed up in my Explore feed somehow. Maybe someone shared it. Who knows? This is the magic of social media. And I listened to it because, her podcast is a lot about like wellness and stuff. I like to work out, but I also eat a lot of Nutella. So like I can't connect so much in the acai bowl world and like the, like the gua sha sticks or whatever. I don't know. But
right.
Your message about comparison, your message about finding, happiness where you are now, wherever you are in your journey. Oh my God. It spoke to me like a freaking hit. I got hit in the face with it because I was so going through it in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think so many people are, which is why they need to read a book like yours, Radically Content. So what would you say like is the reason behind writing this book? This is an incredible book about finding, and I'm not going to do a good job kind of giving you that like one sentence synopsis, but essentially I think it's kind of like removing the shoulds from your vocabulary. Like I need to be here. I should have been here. I wish I was here, and more just being like, I'm okay in this moment. I can still want more, but I'm happy where I am. Right. Is that kind of
better than I could have said it, honestly.
There's no way. There's no way.
No. Okay. Cause this is the problem that people ask me. They're like, give me your like one sentence. And I'm like, I wrote 208 pages of this book. I cannot tell you one sentence. Like I do the one sentence and then I've talked for like 20 minutes about what
does the back of the book say? Like, what is the description of the book?
Right. It's like,
we need to read it.
Yeah. I mean, it is what you said. I mean, it's opting out of these societal shoulds, because what I really wanted to do is make sure that with self-help, I feel like sometimes, and it's not really self-help, it's memoir, it's self-help, it's got a lot of elements. I feel like a lot of times we read those types of books and we feel like we're the wrong ones. Oh, I'm the broken one. Oh, I need to fix all of this. And what I wanted to do with Radically Content is be like, the system is designed for you to feel that way. So like the system is designed for you to feel like you should never be happy, that you should have self-doubt all the time. It's very lucrative. It fits with a lot of things that are out there where people want to profit off of that. And I think why also what you're saying about this like strong connection with me, I think it's because I just don't play the game. I won't play the game. I'm not going to pretend that success has solved my life. Okay. I'm not going to pretend that that I know everything. I'm not a guru. I'm not going to tell you, here's how to live and then follow me forever into the promised land of happiness and fulfillment.
And also buy conference tickets every year and buy my masterminds and buy my books. Yes.
Yes. You know, and I think that people find that very refreshing because they don't know that that's what they've needed. They don't know that they've been looking for someone to be a lighthouse who's not saying, I'm better than you. I'm better than you. And I have the answer. So follow me so you can become me. I don't get off on that. I don't have I don't get off on people being jealous of me. I don't get off on people feeling that I have some sort of aspirational life. I'm like, no, please don't put me on that pedestal. Don't put me up there. You know, like I don't want to be up there. I'm here. I don't have it all figured out. And Radically Content is very much an invitation to like discover it for yourself. Discover your version of being content, your version of what's enough, your version of forget settling, forget, oh, my age makes me do this, 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 and this, and I can't do this, 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 and this. Forget all this crap. Forget that voice in your head that's saying, I'll be happy when I've got X, Y, Z figured out and achieved, and I've got the list and I've got everything. No, like this is all told to us and it doesn't even work. And so it's really an invitation. And I think why it's resonating so much is because people don't finish the book and go, wow, I was just preached to for 200 pages. Okay, now I have a whole list of crap I have to do in order to feel good. It's like people, I feel like people read it and they feel like they can exhale for a bit, be like, I am great. Like I'm doing great. I don't have to, this isn't all on me.
Yeah. It's almost like you're giving the permission to just be, right? To just be. And also you're providing almost like a friendship, like a sense of like, I'll hold your hand and be there for you, with you as you just be, right? Like rather than I'm standing as a teacher or on stage. Okay, but let me ask you a question because look, I don't like to get like into too much controversial stuff, but let's be honest, some of my biggest TikToks are about Rachel Hollis. I've
watched them.
Okay, good. I'm so interested to know, like, was this part of your thinking around this? Because in 2015, when I discovered people like her and Tony Robbins, now I never went all in the sense of going to the conferences, but I was obsessed with the content online and really it's a little like culty, right? Like I became very kind of obsessed with doing the things that you're supposed to do and moving the body and drinking the water. And some of the things I actually really enjoy, but some of the things I felt like I had to check off the list to be successful. And as we see, so many of these people, gurus, self-help gurus, end up getting put on these pedestals and failing because they're human, right? Like stuff happens and they say the wrong thing or they do the wrong thing. did you have a bad experience in any capacity with anything like that? Did you grow up around something that made you say like, I don't want to be like that, or no?
I think this comes back to the observing in seeing that especially women are, they are thrown up into the air just to watch them fall. And, you know, when you grow up seeing, okay, we have Jennifer Lawrence, who's being celebrated, but Anne Hathaway is being condemned because they're being compared. Like the media builds them up just to tear them down. And when you see someone like Rachel Hollis inviting people into a cult where she cannot be perfect or where she has to be perfect, I never got sucked in because I was like, there's no way. Like, and it's always, you know, I started to notice, I'm like, I think part of it was because I'm not thin. I always noticed that it was like thin, blonde, white girls who always brought, or like, you know, Tony Robbins, who's this like, you know, he looks like macho guy. And I was like, I don't fall for this. I can't, because I know it's basically giving into the conventional ideas of what it's like to be successful and what you're supposed to look like and how you're supposed to show up. And there's a history of this that's so prevalent that I was like, I can't buy into that. And then I also, you know, for my own gain, can't then exploit it, because this is what's happening. These people who are high on their pedestals, what's happened is either themselves or their team is always saying like, we got to maximize this, maximize and maximize and optimize. And what happens is they just like lose their humanity and they lose their connection to themselves. Like it starts first with the connection to themselves. And I've always been, I don't know why, observation, some sort of inner knowing, I've always been extremely weary of fame. Very weary. And so I've always had like,
did you see anything growing up or like have an experience around you that like made you feel that way? Because you're not from LA.
No.
You live in LA now, but yeah, it's not like you were raised here in like Hollywood.
Well, you know, it might be my mom and my dad, when they met, they used to be in the Hollywood world. I mean, I was literally named after Jamie Lee Curtis.
Wow.
Yeah. Like they knew Tony Curtis, her dad, very well, who was a very famous actor.
Yeah.
And I think maybe some of that got encoded, like, and I think my mom really told me a lot about fame. You know, she'd say certain things that really stuck with me of like, you know, she'd say things like, Jamie, they need the big houses because they are scared to go out. Like they need their castles because they're getting scrutinized all the time. And I always asked her, I'd be like, why would you leave LA? Like when you guys knew everyone? Because all my all my siblings and I have come back to LA.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. And my older brother is a music producer.
Oh my God. So he's like very in the business.
Yeah. And my younger brother works for Balmain clothing and like dresses stars and stuff. So it's just like,
you're so surrounded.
Funny. Yeah. We all came back, you know, and I have friends that are in the industry and everything. So it's just like, but my mom, I think, was very clear about, she was like, I would ask her, I'm like, why did you leave? Like, we were so connected. And she's like, I didn't want to raise my kids around that. Yeah. Like fame is not what you think it is. These people were not always really happy. Like they had to pretend they were more happy. So I was always, I guess, when I saw someone playing that game, doing the pretending, I not only saw through it, but I also was like, that looks exhausting as hell. Like so exhausting. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't maintain two different versions of myself. And so I just made it, I was like, I just got to be honest then. Like, I got to tell the truth where people are not telling the truth. And I think, you know, of course, would I sell? Maybe things would have taken off earlier if I had said, I have all the answers. Here's all my things. But I think now we're coming into, it's almost like it was the perfect timing, because I think after 2020 and everything, people were like, screw these gurus.
Yeah. That's kind of, I think that was the like kind of the head of the tipping point where people started to see a clearer version of what we were all being sold into.
Yeah.
right? Online.
And I was like, hello, welcome.
Welcome. And it's like, almost like, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, we were all being kind of built up and coached by these people, like, go, 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 go. And then we got to the top of the mountain and no one was there to support us, right? Like, no one's there to support you. And then Jamie's on the other side of the mountain, like, hey guys, want a cup of coffee?
Right. Like, want to hang, want to just like talk
and chill and like, be okay with that. Be okay with chilling. So I need you to help me in this way, because now that I'm thinking about it, you know, my podcast is called Amp It Up. I created this podcast 2 years ago. End of 2019, I think, or the beginning of 2020. No, end of 2020. I want to say around that time. AMP stands for ambitious, motivated, positive. All three things that I feel like I am.
Mm-hmm.
But the message around Amp It Up was always like, amp it up, go, go. And I am so not that way anymore, right? I am a doer. I love to be busy and I love to go, and it's hard for me to chill. But I also really see the power in taking the steps back and just being okay. How do you balance this? How do you become an author who's trying to sell books, who's getting on podcasts, who's growing in your business, but also not taking on that approach of like, I need more. It's not enough. Give me more to be, you know what I mean? How do you do it every day?
Oh my God. Well, I am very, very vigilant with myself, I think, because it's very easy to get caught up in it. I try to stay very grounded. I try to keep my vision with myself of like, all of this is just what more comes my way is just more experience. But I also think what I've really made sure to tell myself and what I know and can acknowledge is that every time you say yes to something, there is a cost too. There's a benefit, but there's a cost. It's going to take you away from time doing this, or, you know, and I'm the type of person where I love to work. I love being creative, but I love not to work too. Like I truly do. I love to close the computer. I love my weekends where I do no work and I'm not available. And I have a lot of boundaries around my time in that sense. And so I don't try to, I'm not in maximize mode. Cause here's the thing, that to me is a very scarcity mindset of like, there's only one time, there's only one moment, you got to take advantage of everything. And it's like, I'm here to have a sustainable career. This is my first book of like 20 or 30 that I'm going to write. Like, all right, I don't
need to run. I don't need to run.
I don't need to sprint, you know? Go. And I think I'm very rooted in that. I think that's very important. And I think I've really maintained this balance of, I want to be in my day that I'm in. I say to myself a lot, be in the day you're in, like all throughout this, especially. I'm not like, it's not, my book comes out April 12th. It's not April 12th yet. I can't be in that day yet. So I need to find I need to find what's joyful about this day. I need to, like, I looked forward to this conversation. This has been a beautiful connection. Like, I'm very present for this. This has value, not because, oh, it might sell books and I'm maximizing, but like, it's valuable to have these conversations. It's valuable to see you and speak to you. Yeah. So all of that is like, I notice those things. That's the important part, is I take note. Like, that was a beautiful moment. That was a beautiful podcast conversation. I really loved connecting with that person. Yeah. And if it goes on to show more people to me or do what it does or whatever, cool. But things like that are very important. Like, I go on my walks every day. I make sure that I'm eating well for myself. Like, I really am very rooted in my day and intentional, because otherwise, if I'm on autopilot, it's very like maximize, do the next. Like, I'll just go default. I default now. My default is very different, but I used to default into just anxiety. That was my default for a long time. And I think because it was so bad and so intense, I will not let myself go there anymore, you know?
Yeah. So did you have like a rock bottom moment? Like
definitely.
Okay. So explain that. So what was, because you weren't always this way?
Oh, hell no. Hell no. I mean, okay. So end of 2016, I think 2016 was a reckoning for some of us, you know, it was a big eye-opening experience. End of 2016, I had a recognition that I had woken up almost every single day of 2016 with heart pounding, paralyzing anxiety.
Wow.
Like, I was like, I cannot remember a day where I did not wake up already in the middle of the anxiety. So obviously I was sleeping and thinking and overthinking and everything. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I went to an urgent care and I was like, I know this is not typical. I know I should go through a psychiatrist, whatever, but like, you got to give me like a low dose of some sort of anti-anxiety medication. Like I need something. I can't handle myself anymore.
Wow.
You know, and I had always told myself I wouldn't go on medication because, I mean, truthfully, I'm so not like this that like doctors have been trying to medicate me since I was like 14.
What?
Yes. Doctors have been trying to get me on antidepressants since I was 14 years old.
Because clearly you were showing signs of massive depression.
Yeah.
And anxiety?
Yes.
And you were hesitant to get on the medication. Why? Because I take Zoloft. I take a low dose of Zoloft every single morning. Because I have massive anxiety problems here.
Yeah. My family was very anti-medication. Mental illness is not a real thing type of thing.
Just calm down.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath.
Just like, it's fine. You're just
gonna be okay.
It was kind of actually like, I think you're probably depressed because you need to lose weight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I was like, cool. That makes me feel good. Yeah. So college.
I got a little bit of that because I was chunkier growing up. And when I was 18, I remember my mom saying the same thing to me. I was really like depressed. And she was like, maybe it would help if like, you fit in your clothes a little better. And I was like, oh, okay. So we're going there. Like I didn't even recognize that there would have been a connection in her head. So interesting. Both you and I had that experience.
Yeah. I think when we were growing up, that was not a body positive time.
To say the least. I grew up in a house filled with diets. Like it was all diets, one diet to the next. Fat Flush, South Beach diet, cabbage soup diet. Did you have the same?
Oh yeah. 14.
How old? I don't want to ask how old you are in case you're not comfortable saying. I'm 40.
I'm 36.
Okay. So we're similar.
37. Yeah.
37 is my lucky number. It's going to be the best year of your life. When's your birthday?
June 15th.
I'm June 11th.
Gemini.
We're Hungarian Geminis.
Oh my God. Well, this explains everything.
We're Hungarian Jewish Geminis.
That's
we
amazing.
Are sisters.
Oh my God.
Tripping out. Okay, wait, go back. So you were always told to get on medication, but from doctors, but you were hesitant to, and your parents were hesitant.
Like college, every single doctor's visit to the health center.
Go to school.
California State University, Chico.
Okay.
Do you want to get on antidepressants? Yeah. I mean, I was the overthinker and massive complainer in my family. Like before going anywhere, before going on a trip, anything, my mom would have to sit me down and go, we don't need all your complaining here. Like that's how different I am. So,
wow. Wait, this gives me hope for my son because he's like that. Yeah. Were you also a little hypochondriac?
No, but I was just worried about everything.
You were anxious. You were just anxious. Like you needed to know what was ahead of you.
So I didn't know it was anxiety because I didn't know that was a word or a thing until like I was 32, I think 30, maybe, when people started talking about it on the internet, because what I recognized was I wasn't depressed. I was anxious, and my anxiety would get so bad that my depression was like a symptom of it. It was like, we have to shut you down because you're exhausting yourself. So then I just go into like numb blackout. I'm not even really like, I had these periods in my life where I'd wake up after like 2 weeks, 2 months, who knows, and just be like, I have not been present and alive to my life for all this time. Like I'd look at my bank statements, wouldn't even remember what I'd spent.
Oh my God. You were living like in a dream state. You were in such it
was awful.
Funk. Wow.
It was awful. And so
I can't believe you didn't know that was anxiety related. That's so interesting.
I know. I just didn't. It was like, I just worried myself, and I was so anxious to the point where I just had to numb out and your like body disassociate from myself.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Keep going. I love the story.
I know, like people don't know. I mean, I think people probably assume like, oh, she's just like a naturally
happy person.
Far from it. So I got on this anti-anxiety medication, And I said to myself, because I had this stuff about medication and I don't have it now. I don't care, but I'm not on it anymore. But I told myself, I was like, you know, you don't get to just take the medication. You got to do some other things. Like you got to care about yourself, because I wasn't, you know? So I was like, you know, you got to at least start like exercising. You got to stop like neglecting yourself. You got to take care of your mental health. And so in 2017, I decided, I had this absolute clarity where I was like, you don't get to do anything but take care of your mental health. And part of that was like, I had to get my finances together because of the disassociation and the avoidance, I was in debt. You know, it was like, I can't even deal with life because I just am so out of it. So I had to like, I really amped up like making money and focusing on my clients. I stopped writing for a couple of years because I was
But you're saying clients. So what kind of clients were you having at the time?
Oh, since 2009, I've had a web design company.
Okay.
So
you were a designer.
Yeah, I'm a designer. And so I've been doing creative consulting, web design, brands for a long time. I've always had a really good, steady stream of clients. So I really just focused on my clients and focused on doing that. And you know, I had to get out of debt. So I started really focusing on money. And then the writing was causing me so much anguish because I wasn't where I wanted to be yet. Nothing was happening. I didn't have my book deal, all this stuff. And I was like, you're giving up. Like, you're going to have to stop this because it's more painful than it is anything else. And if writing can come back around and be a joy for you, cool. If not, like never write again. Like I get this way with myself. I have a little tough love with myself sometimes where I'm like, I have to speak to almost like I have to parent myself because I feel like I wasn't parented very well. And so I have to come back and be like, okay, I'm now your mom. Like I'm your mommy and I have to tell you what you're supposed to do because you're so lost. And so that year and the next 2 years, it was all focused on my mental health and finally getting myself to a place where like, I didn't like hate myself, where I wasn't having these depressive episodes, where I could manage my anxiety in a way that wasn't like avoidance. And that really started so much because I recognized like living with intention, not like waiting for my life to get, because I always thought, I think, once I achieve certain things, or maybe if I get thin, or if I get the book deal, or if I get these things, I'll suddenly, all my woes will go away. Like I'll never be depressed ever again. I'll never be anxious ever again. And I was like, this is a lie.
Such a lie.
Like it's just
such a lie.
And it's not even, it's perpetuated. And yet we see ample evidence of it not being true. It's like, how many famous people do we know, like, have we watched their downfall from all of this? Like probably because they bought into the same things that we buy into of like, oh, my life is supposed to be perfect now.
And I feel like, with this online, persona that we are all in, and our brands and our businesses, and just being around so many other people. And you and I are LA, you're a little bit outside of LA, but we're in LA. We know a lot of people probably that are more quote unquote successful, wealthier, prettier, more popular, more followers, et cetera, et cetera. It's this feeling of like filling up the colander with water, right? Yeah. Like you fill it up and it's like it starts and then it goes right through. And so creating content that goes viral, it feels so good. And then the next day you're like, oh shit, the notification stops. Like, gotta create more. It never, ever really fills up unless you start to what would you say is the best thing that kind of gave you that feeling of how do I become radically content, right? In this moment.
The filling up, I think, was me recognizing, and it was the most cliche thing. And I absolutely avoided and resisted it. And I was like, this is so stupid. But then it turned out to be the best thing, that like the journey is the reward. That like doing the things, I let myself, for example, with my book, I let myself have the best time. Like to write that book, like I put the ideal conditions together. I put boundaries around my time. I like was so kind to myself. I would always I would write and then fill my cup back up by like going on like long beach walks and then having like all the fresh vegetables and fruits. Like I would get a watermelon like every day, you know, it was just so fun. Like I just would always fill my cup up with things. And I loved writing that book so much. I was so lit up by it that when I finished, I was like, I do not care what this book does in the world, because that was so fun.
Enjoy the process rather than just the outcome. And you're right. So many people write in a negative state of mind. Crap, I have a deadline. I need to finish this. I don't want to do it. Rather than saying like, I want to enjoy and look forward to the day to day. Like, were you almost kind of sad when it was over?
I really was. And I mean, even though all of this promo has been fun and I miss getting stuck in something. And so my other intention now is like, I cannot become bigger than my art. Cause like, I'm a writer. I need to be like, that's going to require time and focus for me. And so I've already lined up my next things, which is very important to me. And I think just relieving the pressure off that big day, that big moment, because I just don't think it feeds back to us. Like say I signed this book deal and I hadn't enjoyed a single moment for a full year. Then the day the book comes out, imagine how much it has to fill up, like how empty the cup is.
And
it's never
going to.
It's like, never going to.
Yeah.
So I fill the cup up all the time. Like I celebrate the small things. Like people are so afraid to celebrate the small things because they're like, well, but it's not the big thing yet.
Yeah.
If I celebrate the small thing,
I am that person.
Yeah, then maybe I won't push myself to get the big thing. And it's like, no, it's the complete opposite. You feel even more motivated, more excited, but you don't have this like constant pressure of like, how's this going to do? How's it going to do? And I just can't live like that. So I remind myself, I'm like, writing the book was so fun doing that. And then, you know, picking out like the cover and deciding on the
gorgeous cover.
It's an amazing cover.
Oh
like,
my God.
I mean, and just like the first time, you know, the other day I signed my book for the first time. Like I hadn't, autographed it yet. And I like sat, instead of just doing it, I like sat and I looked at my husband and I was like, I've been practicing my signature since I was 6 years old to do this. This is a moment, you know? And it wasn't like I'm signing this book at a big event and that's the moment. It was like a moment for myself to celebrate. And if you make the small moments feel big, then the big moments don't have to rock your world so much. And if they do rock your world, then like, oh my God, the cup is overflowing now. You're not trying to fill up this like little cup and like, oh, let me get enough from this. It's like, you know, I use this metaphor a lot of like, say you give yourself like one little square of chocolate once a year and you get it and you're like, oh,
who's that crazy? Who is that crazy? Number one.
But if you think about it, we do that with how we celebrate and our joy. We're like, only once I get there, only once I do this, only, you know, even with like, if you want to lose weight, it's like only once I hit my goal weight. And it's like
these huge milestones.
Like, what about celebrating if you like, you know, exercise consistently or like lost a pound or
drank a lot of water today.
Right. I mean, I think we really think that like, we're going to celebrate ourselves into complacency. And I'm like, just look at me as an example. I'm the least complacent person ever. I have things lined up into like, you know, 2 years from now that I'm doing. That is so fun because I'm now motivated by like joy and excitement.
But by the way, that's not a coincidence. I think it's one of those things, right? Like the attention goes, energy flows type of thing. And if you're so wrapped up in only getting to that one win, I think a lot of things keep slapping you in the face, or like the obstacles keep coming. But if you're enjoying the process, like the world, energy, whatever, spirit world kind of gives you more of the process, which ends up being more wins, right? Like it's kind of like a feeding it.
It absolutely is. I'm noticing that like the more that I feel content in my day to day and the more, because that's not complacency to me. That is like, I have that foundation for myself. And then I'm open to more, but I'm not going to force it. Like if it's meant to be, I'll show up, I'll do the work. But if it's got to be so aligned, otherwise, why do it? I mean, and it's a privilege to get to that place, but I've been working toward that for a long time. I mean, I've done a lot of crap I didn't want to do. And I don't necessarily think you have to do that, but I was in the mindset that like, oh, you got to work hard. Like things never happened for me when I said to myself, you got to work hard. You got to do this. You got to maximize.
Hustle.
That's when the hustle, that's when the moment I start doing the hustle, everything shuts down.
Yeah.
Everything. No one calls me back. No emails coming through. I'm checking my internet. Like, what the hell is going on?
You're not sleeping well. You're
Right.
probably not eating well. Like everything's falling apart. You're so right. It really is one of those things where the more that we kind of lean in to being content where we are, and then still also putting good positive energy towards growth and whatever. It's not being radically content for you does not mean giving up.
No, it's like the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Because I'm so ambitious. I'm like you. I love being ambitious. I'm motivated. I'm all about that. But it can't be, I'm so ambitious and I think I'll only be happy if I get these certain things. You know, if I'll be happy when, like when. If not now, it's not then. Like it's not, I've had so many things happen. Like, let me be the one to say, like, I've had things go viral. I've had all the big moments and they do not do what we expect them to do, which doesn't mean don't go after the big moments. It just means spread your joy around, spread your attention around, be more present for your average kind of ordinary days and find what's extraordinary there. Like, always look at your day and be like, what's happening for me? Like I had the busiest week last week. And now this week before my book comes out, it's a little chill. And instead of freaking out and being like, oh no, I'm like, cool. I get a little rest for a second. Let me enjoy that.
Enjoy it. Exactly. Oh my gosh, Jamie, I want to talk to you forever. And unfortunately we can't, but I literally feel like this could have been a 7-part series because everything you're saying, once again, just like your Instagram content and your book feels like I needed to hear it exactly in this moment. And I guarantee you the people that are listening to this also needed to hear it. So I know that you have your book coming out on April 12th. I believe this episode is going to come out on April 13th. So we're going to be one day after. So your book came out yesterday. Yay. And it's so good and it's so powerful and amazing. And it's going to change so many people's lives. So you also just had some really cool news drop about a TV adaptation.
Yeah.
I mean, what a freaking cool experience. And I really feel like I need to get you back on the podcast, or at least we need to go out for a glass of wine or something and just talk about it because you're so cool and just such a great person to talk to and connect with. I love having you in my feed. I love seeing your content.
You too. This was just so wonderful. I know we went a little over, but it was flowing.
It's always flowing. It's just it's a Gemini flow, right? That's what we're calling it.
I love it. We're both Geminis.
So people can find you over on your Instagram, which is at Jamie Varon, right? Varon. And then of course they can buy the book on
radicallycontent.com and anywhere books are sold. Well, that's just where I have all the links, radicallycontent.com, but like get it wherever books are sold because it's worldwide. So
do you have an audio version coming out?
Yeah. And I read it.
Yay! When is that going to be out? Same day?
Same day with Audible.
Oh my, okay. Well, I'm definitely getting that because I'm an Audible addict and I love being able to, because I'm such it's very hard for me to just sit and read. Yeah. I like to move and walk while I listen. So you're going to be in my ear for so long. And I'm so excited about it. Okay, you guys, everyone check out Jamie, follow her and have your life change and then feel like she's speaking to you. Thank you so much, Jamie, for being here. You're amazing.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you
so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.